Live long and prosper, everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, hi James.
Yeah, I
He
can't.
can just about do it.
Yeah.
I did have to wake him up for this about half an hour ago. So,
So I might be a little bit groggy. It's Easter Sunday and he insists we work. For one day that
well,
actual work, all workplaces in the UK give people off. And
no,
here,
no, 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 no. It isn't all workplaces.
okay.
For us, because we work in supermarkets. It's supermarkets over a certain square
Oh
footage.
yeah, of course, expresses
Yeah,
and
yeah.
things like that. Don't like
Mm.
convenience stores, basically.
Yeah,
Don't.
you're looking at the monitor rather than the camera again, James.
Yeah.
So
I wasn't
James
actually
has
looking at either. I was just kind of gazing off into the distance.
um,
Yeah, so out of 2 days that
mm,
we 100% that we are closed and do not open, and here's Matt like,
mm.
no, work.
I mean, admittedly, we had put this time aside to potentially try out streaming a game together.
Yes, we're thinking of doing a live, a let's play soon.
But then I was on Twitter the other day, surprise, um, and the official Star Trek account was advertising that tomorrow or today, when we post this, Monday the 5th of April is the official first contact day. So
Yes,
a surprise drop for us.
because they went back in time on April the 4th.
Mm, so um, so we decided to bring back our reviews of the Star Trek films a
Bears
little early.
Boldy go.
Yeah, there's Bolder go. And of course, we're doing this ever so slightly out of order, so we've skipped Generations, and we're going to be doing First Contact. But then this is a film about time travel, so I suppose it sort of
Yeah,
works.
we can
Um,
in the playlist. We should have. Yeah, in the playlist when we get to it, it'll be placed in the
mm,
right point, I think. But
mm.
we're doing it first, so
We're doing it first. We're doing it First Contact. So, and yes, I am drinking Earl Grey, as the great captain would have.
I sent you a message
Um,
last night, and I do think
I
it's
believe you
accurate.
did.
This is Star Trek, kind of through the lens of James Cameron.
I think literally through the lens of James Cameron, as in the physical piece of glass. That, and I do totally get you with that.
I think part of it is
That
because it's made like I kind of in my mind I'd start to think like, oh yeah, it's early noughties, isn't it? But no, it's late 90s.
yeah, it's 1996.
The
Um, so this is the
this
same year that I mean, this was the year of Brent Spiner being the ultimate box office draw, because it's the same year that Independence Day came out. And I remember when this came out that it kind of it shocked me. I mean, we'll probably go into this a bit more later on, but it shocked me that the quality of special effects in this compared to the quality of special effects in Independence Day, um, I couldn't necessarily notice the difference. And Independence Day had 5 times the budget.
but then
Um,
this is
so,
potentially a team depending on who's behind it. At least
mm,
certain people who've been used to making special effects on a TV budget for years at this point.
yeah, I know the wife was reading up facts about First Contact when we were watching it, and apparently the Borg makeup took 5 times longer to apply
Yeah.
than it did for the TV. So like, weird, which is
Is
fair
this the
enough.
first introduction of a Borg Queen?
It is, yes, and then you see her again
In Voyager
in
a lot.
Voyager. Yeah.
As different actors down the line as well. But I
Yeah.
guess the implication is that there isn't like different. There's different Borg Queens, isn't? They're the same, potentially part of a hive mind, but different.
Mm,
Yeah, but it's Generations 100% feels like a film. As much as I love First Contact, I think this one at times does have the feel of. I wonder if Insurrection definitely feels like a super long TV episode, but I wonder if part of the it kind of feels like a TV episode is there's time and distance between Star Trek and the Kirk film series.
mm,
There was like There's enough time that it felt it was what came back was not what went away.
Yeah.
So while TNG kind of just goes straight into TNG films, and the cast are predominantly just it is just another day of a week for them, if you get me.
I do get you that.
Like they are just still on the job.
Although I think that as much as that might sound like a downside,
oh yeah, I'm not...
like oh no, I mean it could be. That's the thing that like on paper it could be.
Yeah.
Like oh, it's just a bigger budget, longer TV episode. Having been working my way through the entirety of Star Trek TV series and the films, obviously.
Yeah.
And putting them roughly in chronological order. The attention to detail that the showrunners and the writers had to actually make sure that the films fit in directly with Deep Space Nine.
Yeah.
Is fantastic.
Oh yeah. I'd completely forgotten how Worf got back on the Enterprise.
Yeah. So you've got like
in my mind, I thought it was just this weird thing that Worf was in two places at once, but no, they actually can like find a reason continuity wise to have him show up.
Oh yeah, and like they
he's a commander right at this level, but he's in command of a ship.
He's still lieutenant commander.
Oh, you think he'd get a promotion by now?
Yeah, and he's quite often in command of the Defiant when Sisko doesn't decide to go on a murder mission himself, because Sisko quite often feels like going and killing some people.
So Sisko's just sort of like, yeah, I can't be bothered with Borg. You go.
Yeah, well, actually, Sisko was busy fighting the Dominion.
Of course.
At the very same time, because
does Deep Space Nine have a moment then where Worf's like, I'm gonna go fight some Borg?
No, it's just nicely forgotten to mention where he is.
And then obviously for Insurrection, he's
because
there.
They steal they don't steal. Sisko commands a Dominion ship for about 4 episodes.
Yeah.
Which is why there's no Defiant. And they're not on DS9 at the time because the Dominion and the Cardassians have taken back DS9. So it's in the point where they're going to...
So in theory, he's on the Defiant and it's just rerouted to this Borg invasion.
Yes.
And then Insurrection has him rocking up for the wedding?
Yeah.
And why is he in Nemesis?
Because it was the last film.
I just wonder what reason they gave in Nemesis.
I honestly can't remember. I mean, it's one of the films I've watched the fewest number of times, but then I suppose it is the newest of the traditional Trek, I suppose.
Yeah, it's good. It was. You know what struck me?
The first one I saw at the cinema, maybe. Yeah, I think it may have been the first one I saw at the cinema.
What is odd? I think I watched it for the first time as part of a Partworks collection. Like it was on one of those, you know, those magazines in the UK where they give like things away.
Yeah.
I think it was on the cover, and I picked it up because obviously at most they're like £8. So it's like, yeah, I'll have First Contact for £8. If it was like the first issue, it might have only been £2. So I picked it up, I think, as part of that. That was the first time I watched First Contact on DVD. I'd seen all the original series films by that point, but and I'd seen Generations because my dad had Generations on VHS. But that was probably when he stopped picking up home copies of the Star Trek films. It's yeah. There's something that struck me as because this is a story that's been told a few times in sci-fi films of like, but our main characters, through the nature of what it's being a Star Trek film, are different. I say this is a James Cameron-esque
Oh yeah, I mean this is
film,
the
and
Terminator.
usually in this style of film, Cochrane
Yeah.
would be our main character. The
Mm,
lady who gets stuck on the Enterprise would be our main character.
mm,
But obviously, and we're viewing it from the perspective of the people who've actually gone back in time,
mm,
which is different to how you would usually see this story told. Because it's a story that has been told many a
mm,
time, especially in this time period, as in this era of sci-fi.
mm.
It very much is a 90s sci-fi film.
Well, 80s and 90s, yeah, because it's that
Yeah.
fear of the future.
What year was it?
Because
96?
96, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah,
Picard,
it's that.
John Patrick Stewart gets to be an action hero.
I mean, he again during the rewatch, like I know I'd forgotten how much of an action hero Patrick Stewart was,
This
and
feels like
how
more of his
yeah, and like
because he gets
and
like action hero clothing
I mean
in
he
this.
has
He gets
action
like
hero clothing in a lot of the TV
he
series.
does, but he gets a John McClane
He,
vest effectively. He
he's
gets the
got the
Star
John
Trek
McClane.
equivalent of a John McClane vest in
Now, I
this.
mean, we've noticed in the rewatch that he's always been in damn good nick,
Yeah.
like surprisingly good shape.
Well, I
But
also
in
sent you a another message last night. Like recently, the
mm,
news came out that apparently, for some
oh yeah, yeah,
odd
yeah, yeah.
reason, Prince William of the UK has been voted the world's sexiest bald man. I don't know who
Mm,
voted for this. I feel like it's an inside kind of like, hey,
mm,
newspapers, give him
mm,
some good PR. But Patrick Stewart's alive, so it's just a
correct.
blatant lie.
Well, I mean, like towards the climax of the film, I assume most people who might watch this have probably seen this film.
Yeah,
So I mean, spoilers,
spoilers. Yeah,
but towards the climax of the film, when he has vented some plasma, so he's killing off all organic matter
yeah.
in the engine room. When he's holding on to the ladders to get himself back down or whatever, did you see the size of his arms? Like that man must have been lifting, like
Yeah,
because I mean, at that point, like how old is he now? He's about 80 now.
80 something. Yeah,
Yeah, so he's in his mid 50s, like, and
it's
he
impressive
was
how he's just consistently looked the same for most of his life, isn't it?
yeah. I mean, like he's aged, but like
Yeah,
not like kind of. It's really just kind of just normal, natural
I think that's
aging.
because he
But like,
started off looking, or at least seeming old.
yeah. But I mean, we talk about like people like Daniel Craig who's playing Bond at like
Yeah,
50 now, or like um, uh, Jackman when he last played Wolverine, having to get into shape again, and again he was knocking on. I mean, he was only like 45 or something at the time. You look at the physical shape that Patrick Stewart's in this film at what would be 55-ish,
yeah.
and he puts all of them to shame. Like he's an absolute weapon in that film. Um, like, and then of course he gets rewarded with all this stardom from Star Trek and the mainstream fandom by getting cast as Xavier, so he can just sit
Sit in a
down.
wheelchair.
Yes, just sit down for the rest of his career. Um,
Um,
but
the other thing is like his, and just going on to like how good of an actor Pat Stew is.
oh yeah, yeah,
Like his Ahab moment is
mm.
just phenomenal. Like from the
Oh
moment of
yeah, yeah,
calling like war for coward and then
mm.
stalking off, and then the lady from this time period goes and like calls him on his
Lily.
calls him on his bullshit,
Mm.
and like the moment where it obviously slowly does dawn on him that he is Ahab
Mm.
in this moment. It's a wonderful scene.
I mean, it's a wonderful scene, but I mean, obviously, this is the first of sadly only two Trek films directed by Frakes.
Yeah.
One can't help but think that Insurrection would have been not Insurrection. Last one.
Nemesis.
Nemesis would have been a significantly better film. with
Frakes.
Frakes at the helm.
Whenever I see Frakes'
Um,
name on a TV show I'm watching, I know I'm in for a good time.
yeah, I mean, like obviously you joke about the Cameron lens, and we both joked about the physical Cameron lens. Like obviously in the Star Trek reboot, the JJ verse, there was so much lens flare and everything like
Yeah,
that. Typical JJ. Like um, Frakes has a certain sheen to his look, and he
yeah.
does like a little lens flare, but like he's so meticulous with his use of it. Like
I mean,
there's some real wisdom, and I know he knows this show inside out. But this was the first time that he got let loose with film grade cameras,
yeah.
and so at least for Star Trek anyway. And he did such a wonderful job. And then
I mean, you
you
forget
watch
Star
all of
Trek would have
his
been shot on film.
Star Trek would have been shot on film, but not to they still wouldn't have
You
had
would have been
the
you'd have been lighting the TV, not lighting the
exactly,
cinema.
yeah.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't have had the length of time for doing the
No,
setups and stuff like that.
it would
So
have
like
been banging stuff
mm,
out, wouldn't it?
this is him going for it. And I think, to be honest, that's probably one of the reasons they managed to keep the budget down,
It's
because
such
you
a
had
damn shame
someone who was
Thunderbirds killed his career as a
yeah,
film director. That said, TV has
yeah,
benefited from it.
yeah,
The the best episodes of The Librarians are usually Frakes directed
mm,
episodes. The best episodes of Leverage are usually Frakes directed episodes, and I hope he's coming back for the Leverage reboot.
mm,
I say some of the best episodes of Discovery are
yep.
Frakes. For some of the best episodes of Picard are Frakes.
I think I get the feeling he's like unofficially one of the top creatives, like a consultant potentially
You get.
on the new stuff.
I always got the feeling he
Like,
was relatively high up at TNT for shows like Librarians and Leverage as well. Like
mm,
that, he was kind of because he directed it. Was it all three of the Librarian films, Freaks?
might have been, but no, I mean you're right. Like when I think the thing is that like he not only makes possibly the best episodes of the new Star Treks, but he also sets that quality benchmark. So even if they aren't necessarily the best or your taste, the other directors, knowing full well that Frakes is involved, kind of have to lift their game a little bit. Because when you watch a Frakes episode, like he's one of those directors that has a visual style. You can tell it's a Frakes episode.
Frakes directed
Um,
2 and 3 of
mm,
the Librarian films, and
yeah.
again, probably one of the reasons that, obviously not the main reason behind from kicking off, because the first one wasn't him, but
Mm.
straight to TV Indiana Jones knockoffs should not be good. Like straight to
Not
sci-fi,
really. I mean,
not straight to TV, straight to Sci-Fi Channel
yeah,
Indiana Jones knockoffs should not be good.
should not be good enough. I think that like there's always that room for a bit of tongue in cheek
Yeah,
fun, and
I mean,
like
the casting of
sci-fi.
Noah Weil helps because he's fantastic in that part.
Mm,
But yeah, the Librarian franchise is one of my favourite
yeah.
TV franchises. The fact that it defies all odds
Mm.
and
Yeah.
is somehow very good, because it's 3 films straight to TV
Mm.
movies, and then it's a 3 or 4 series TV show with
Mm.
and by all logic that thing should be terrible, but it's not. It's one of my favourite things.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I've only seen the films. I haven't yet seen the TV series, but
You should, because the TV series is full of it has thingy from Leverage and Angel in. Long haired actor tends to play the muscle a lot. It has thingy from Star Trek Discovery Season 2. Somebody cast to play number 1.
oh yes, Rebecca Romaine.
Yeah, she's one of the main characters in it. It it's a show that you kind of like. They picked such a good cast for it that it works. But again, much like the films that came before it, it's like this should be terrible.
Mm.
Like on paper, if like
I think maybe it just came around at the right time because, like, Sci-Fi was one of the first stations to go full in on
yeah,
CGI when CGI wasn't quite ready. So they were spending like
I mean the show airs
out.
post or contempt. The show itself is contemporary to the Sharknado franchises, and that's the way they took their original films. But
Yeah,
yeah, they're. Oh
but I
no,
mean,
I
like,
think
yeah,
I think the TV show might actually be a TNT show.
But either way,
Yeah,
like, it's I think it just came around at the right point,
yeah,
and as you say, if it's got
but
the
yeah.
right,
It's
the right team there.
that is a fake shaped detour, but a detour nonetheless.
Well, I think it's worthy. I think you're looking at your monitor rather than your camera
Yeah,
quite a lot.
I'll keep trying
So
to.
it's because he hates you fans.
That's because I keep
He
looking at
really
you.
does. Yeah, I know. Yeah, don't look at me. Look at the people. That's what they're here for, James.
Maybe I should like put a picture of someone above my camera just so I've got.
We've gone on a bold person detour, and yet you're turning your head away from the people, and that's what they've come from. That's what they've come for. Like our resident bald person. To be honest, I'm thinning on top as well. All this hair just hides the monk-like circle that's coming up.
It's well known that I can use this as a weapon to blind people in the right light.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, he's actually setting up key lights and everything now to so that he can.
Now, my head is the key light.
Yeah,
I've been many times I get a letter from film sets saying like, we need stronger lights. Can you pop down to angle your head against the sun?
Put some of that special wax on. And, I think this is definitely the best of the TNG films.
Definitely.
I think there's always a discussion as to how this ranks overall with the others.
It's a very different beast to the others.
It's an incredibly different
styles
beast,
of film.
Yeah. I think we're planning on doing a train of thought episode on Hope. Soon.
Yes,
and I think after our discussion on the Snyder Cut that went live just a couple of days ago, by the time we put this up anyway, one of the topics that we will be discussing with Hope is darkness for darkness' sake, I think. And this film is a dark film, but still manages to ride the line of hope. This is all about hope seeking, getting through. And I think this is a perfect study, really, in what maybe Man of Steel could have been, and maybe Batman vs Superman could have been, and even Justice League itself. That this is that line of, like, the Star Trek crew, especially the Enterprise crew, should always be the beacons of hope, and no matter how dark it gets.
They've gone back to a time where where Earth is in dire kind of straits.
Well, yeah, I mean,
it's how quickly they turn it around, though. They drop some terms, and apparently 50 years after this, everything's hunky dory.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing is that, like, things like that can happen. That, like, great disaster, but with something to unify everyone.
Yeah.
Because remember, at this point in that particular timeline, there'd been obviously World War One, World War Two, but then in the 90s there was the eugenics wars. Although that date
has to shift
vary,
now, but unless we take that Star Trek as an alternate, it's not our future. It is a whole alternate universe.
Yeah, it's a complete alternate universe. So, but in the Star Trek,
it's a probably ten sci-fi, right, and setting dates.
It does float a little bit in universe, but then at the same time, the eugenics war, from the sounds of it, was the biggest war that the world had ever gone through. So there's a chance it was almost like a modern Dark Ages. We don't know exactly what date it was.
Yeah.
And then, of course, after the eugenics war, they have World War III, which finishes 5 years before this film takes place. So humanity is like at its most desperate as humanity as a whole, not individual countries, but like the literal whole world. And so it's just tired. Like
Yeah.
it's not even necessarily angry or wanting to fight anymore. It's just tired and ready, ready for something. Um, and
It's a
so this,
it's a people that have kind of given up hope at much of anything.
yeah, yeah. And so Cochrane's warp flight and meeting the Vulcans, first contact,
Yeah.
is what gives the planet, gives the species hope
But it's like
once again.
they say, isn't it? I for like realizing we're not alone in the universe
Mm,
gives us reason to better ourselves.
exactly. And I think
I
it's
love Cochrane's through line as
mm,
well,
oh yeah, 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 and
and
excellent casting as well with James Cromwell.
yeah,
Like
like his not wanting to be a hero, not wanting to be like this
and they got their
stoic.
money's worth out of him because while they were shooting this, they got him to be a character in DS9 as well.
Did they?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely covered in
Yeah.
in like prosthetics and stuff like that. So you could tell because of his voice, but like,
It's this show as well that sets up, I think, and makes not this show, this film that sets
mm,
up and makes Enterprise possible.
mm,
Like, I think you need this film for Enterprise to work.
mm.
Like, you need to have seen this point to get how many years later is Enterprise?
Well, Cochrane's still alive when Archer is at the academy.
Yeah, is it meant to be about 100 years on Enterprise?
It might not even be that far.
I think it's like the Vulcans have refused to really let them do anything for a century, and now they're like, you know what? No, we're gonna do it.
It's yeah, it's near that or
Yeah,
something like that. But yeah, Cochrane is still alive when Archer's at the academy. So in theory, Archer was.
like how many years back from
Uh,
TNG is from like where we are in TNG?
hmm?
How many years back from the point they travel is it?
250, 300, something like that.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Archer's a good distance away from the TNG guys.
Well, it's yeah, because obviously Archie would have been 50-ish, I guess, in the TV
I
series.
mean, Archer is still. Thing is, we know that at least in the Kelvin verse,
Mm.
Archer is still alive when Scotty is
Yeah, there is a bit of overlap.
yeah.
Yeah, there's yeah.
But then people live a lot longer in
They start to live a lot longer.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Because obviously McCoy's in the first episode of TNG,
Yeah.
and he's 137
And I
in
also
that
think
episode. So.
it's this film that allows Enterprise to get away with using that theme tune. And I know a lot of people disagree that it got away with it. I know that's
I love it.
yeah, I do, but I know it's a
Mm.
contentious subject among Trek fans.
Mm.
But I do love that theme. It works, and it works because we've seen this. We've seen the kind of down and out Earth.
Well, I mean, it was again, it was something else that we hit upon last night when we were watching it. That like, I know obviously at this point they've started to like they're using digital media, but the thing is that like the jukebox is incredibly important because if there was excuse me, a massive world war like the eugenics war in the 90s, that was when physical media was still at its peak. Like there were still records and cassette tapes and CDs would have only just become a reality. So
Yeah.
through two world wars, physical music is what would still live.
Yeah.
So Cochrane listening to rock and roll music from the 50s and 60s, 100 years before, actually makes perfect sense because that might be all that's left music wise. Nothing that came from the 90s onwards in our
Yeah.
universe probably existed at all. So all of that's gone. All that doesn't exist. So you've got like obviously then when you get to Archer and you have that theme tune, like it sort of makes sense that that sort of music would be coming around.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Well,
I think we've had enough
yeah.
for now. Especially for a little surprise drop,
Yeah.
as we said, we didn't know we were going to do this week.
It's been a fun chat.
It has been a fun chat, and it was a good excuse to rewatch the film. It was up to the point where I was going to watch it anyway in my rewatch, so it was just a nice little.
So have you watched
serendipitous
Generations
event.
now then?
Oh, I watched that
Yeah.
about a month ago. Yeah, yeah. So because we've just finished season 5 of DS9,
Yeah.
and we started season 3 of Voyager. And in fact, at the beginning of season 3 of Voyager, there's a lovely Sulu episode where it's disguised as a Tuvok episode because in Undiscovered Country, the actor who plays Tuvok is one of Sulu's bridge crew.
Yes.
Without ears, without point ears. He's playing a human in it, but they retrofit it so that he's
Wait, I thought Tuvok's the guy who plays Tuvok's previous appearance was as a Vulcan.
He's no, I'm sure I paid
sure he's
quite close.
A Vulcan.
You see,
Am I just retroactively thinking because
he also appears in TNG as a marquee member, but then that is clever placing because they're going to use him in Voyager as a Vulcan
an
undercover agent within the marquee. So again, like going back to a point earlier about the TNG films feeling like big budget episodes, they feel like big budget episodes partly because the writing around the entire thing incredibly well.
Yeah.
Something that
while
Marvel is being credited for at the moment with the synergy between the films and the new Disney Plus stuff.
Well, there isn't any synergy because there's no films to synergize with.
But only at them. Well, I mean, there will be. There will be. That's the thing. That they're TNG was. I mean, sorry, Star Trek was smashing this out of the park without anyone even realizing what they were doing. Like the genius level of putting together what they did was wonderful. But yeah, excellent.
On that note,
Sulu episode when you get to it. So, on that note. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good First Contact Day.
Yeah,
I hope you've had a good First Contact Day. Tell us how you're celebrating it in the comments below. Like and subscribe.
And live long and prosper. Go on, James. You can do it. Nice.
Yeah, there we go.
See ya.